Lewis Hamilton's dream of reviving Ferrari is unraveling. And in Brazil, it all came crashing down literally. A front wing destroyed, a penalty handed down, and a heartbreaking retirement, but that was just the surface. At the Brazilian Grand Prix, Hamilton's race went from promising to painful in just a few laps. But behind the contact with Colapinto and the 5-second penalty lies something far more serious. A Ferrari that's not ready to fight at the top. Ferrari has now fallen even further behind Mercedes and Red Bull in the constructors' standings. This isn't just costing them points, it's costing them millions and momentum for 2026. Hamilton's frustration is no longer just emotional, it's strategic. In today's breakdown, we'll reveal how Hamilton's weekend in Brazil exposed the real problem at Ferrari, a problem that could change the course of his final championship years. The numbers, the gaps, the truth, all coming up. Brazil was supposed to be redemption. After a run of inconsistent weekends, the Scuderia had promised that Interlagos would suit their setup. Ferrari fans were hoping for a fight. Instead, they got a reality check. And at the center of that storm was Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest drivers in Formula One history, caught in a race that quickly turned into a disaster. But what we witnessed wasn't just a one-off. It was a warning that something is fundamentally wrong with the Ferrari project. From the moment the lights went out, it was clear Hamilton was fighting on two fronts, against his rivals and against the limits of his own machine. A decent launch saw him navigate the opening corners cleanly. But as he attempted to hold position into turn 4, contact with Colapinto damaged his front wing. The stewards handed Hamilton a 5-second penalty. But anyone watching closely could see the deeper issue. A car that should have absorbed minor contact was already falling apart. After pitting for a new wing and serving his penalty, Hamilton returned to the track out of sync with the field. The SF-25, already sensitive to balance, was completely unsettled with a damaged floor and compromised aero. The data showed massive time lost through Sector 2. There was no recovery possible, not with Ferrari's lack of mid-race adaptability. By lap 28, the team made the call: box, retire, and regroup. A championship-winning driver sidelined by a machine unfit to compete. And it's not just about Brazil. This race exposed Ferrari's biggest vulnerability. They are building a car that does not align with the needs of a generational talent. Hamilton thrives on responsiveness, precision, and control. What he's been given is unpredictability masked as performance. The SF-25 works in simulations, but on real circuits, under real pressure, it collapses under its own engineering philosophy. And in Brazil, that collapse was undeniable. Meanwhile, Mercedes and Red Bull are no longer looking back. With just 3 races left, Ferrari is 74 points behind Mercedes in the fight for second in the Constructors' Championship. And every one of those points matters not just for bragging rights, but for budget allocation, development resources, and long-term leverage. This isn't just a battle for pride, it's business. And right now, Ferrari is losing on both fronts. Ferrari's problem is no longer technical, it's systemic. When a team signs Lewis Hamilton, they're not just hiring a driver. They're committing to a philosophy: precision, adaptability, and race-winning efficiency. But what we saw in Brazil was a team unable to provide even the minimum framework for a champion to operate. The SF-25 doesn't respond well under pressure, and when something breaks, as it did at Interlagos, the whole structure collapses. This is not how you fight for world titles. Hamilton's collision with Colapinto was unfortunate, but the car's fragility turned a racing incident into a race-ending disaster. A minor touch became catastrophic. That's not on the driver, that's on design. A robust front end, a more forgiving floor, or even a chassis built with real-world scenarios in mind would have allowed him to continue competitively. But instead, the Ferrari folded at the first sign of contact. That's not elite racing machinery, that's fragile engineering. And then came the penalty. 5 seconds may seem trivial, but the context is everything. Hamilton had already lost track position after the front wing swap. The SF-25, already known for its sensitivity to balance shifts, became undrivable in dirty air. Ferrari's pit wall made no strategic pivot, no undercut attempt, no tire gamble, just passive monitoring as Lewis sank further. Meanwhile, the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull, who were miles behind Ferrari just 2 months ago, pulled off perfect reactive strategies that catapulted them into the points. This kind of inertia from Ferrari is not new. It's been building for months: bad pit calls, slow responses, rigid setups. And all of it is now costing them not just races, but their position in the championship. Mercedes currently leads Ferrari by 74 points in constructors' standings. Red Bull is another 23 clear. And with 3 rounds left, that gap is not just difficult to close, it's practically sealed unless Ferrari pulls off something extraordinary. The worst part, Hamilton is still extracting performance beyond what the SF25 deserves. Even with a wounded car, his data showed competitive middle sector times before the aero collapsed. His tire management remains world-class. His spatial awareness, even in the opening laps of Brazil, showed he was ready to fight. But the team wasn't. And that's the crux of the issue. When the driver is outperforming the team, you don't have a winning formula. You have a ticking clock. Ferrari has built a car for simulations. But Formula One doesn't reward theory. It rewards execution. And what Brazil revealed harshly and publicly is that Ferrari's 2025 execution is simply not good enough. Hamilton deserves better. The fans know it. The team knows it. And if changes aren't made fast, the real tragedy of this season won't be Brazil. It will be watching one of the greatest drivers of all time waste his final championship window in a car that doesn't belong on the front row. The SF25 is fast, but only when everything is perfect. That's the fundamental engineering flaw. Its pace in clean air and under ideal track conditions looks respectable. But Formula One races aren't run in laboratories. They unfold in unpredictable, chaotic environments where adaptability is everything. And right now, Ferrari's car simply does not adapt. Once the balance is disturbed by wind, contact, tire degradation, or track evolution, the car spirals out of its performance window. Brazil was a textbook case of that collapse. Lewis Hamilton's driving style is built around feel. He extracts performance by instinctively reading grip changes, tire evolution, and brake feedback. He has always succeeded in cars that respond precisely and progressively. The Mercedes W11 and W12 were built for him. But the SF25 is the complete opposite. Its rear end snaps under stress. Its front washes wide under braking if the balance shifts just slightly. And once the car suffers damage, even something minor, like a front wing edge, the whole setup becomes undrivable. That is exactly what happened at Interlagos. Ferrari's design team focused heavily on peak downforce and straight-line speed. But in doing so, they've sacrificed flexibility. The car has a very narrow operational window, and the aero platform is extremely sensitive to vertical load shifts. In layman's terms, if the ride height changes even slightly, the car behaves like a different machine. And once that wing was damaged on Hamilton's car, the aero balance shifted rearward by nearly 7%. That's a death sentence for tire wear and corner entry stability. What makes this more frustrating is that Hamilton was pushing the SF25 beyond its limit. The telemetry from qualifying shows he was rotating the car on brake pressure alone in several corners, a technique only the very best drivers can execute cleanly. In Brazil, even while wounded, he was extracting everything. But the car wasn't giving anything back. The synergy just isn't there. And this late in the season, that's not just a red flag, it's a strategic failure. Let's compare. In Mexico, Mercedes delivered Hamilton a car with excellent rear stability and predictable balance. He immediately rewarded them with a podium. Red Bull made emergency changes in Qatar, and Verstappen still dominated. The top teams aren't just building fast cars, they're building adaptable machines around their lead drivers. Ferrari isn't doing that. They're asking Hamilton to adapt to a platform that resists his strengths. It's like asking a concert violinist to play with broken strings. And when the FIA hands out penalties for incidents caused by car imbalance, it only adds insult to injury. Hamilton didn't dive into Colapinto recklessly. He committed to a move that required the car to rotate and hold its line, and it didn't. The engineers know this. The team knows this. But no one says it out loud, at least not publicly. Yet if Ferrari wants to keep Hamilton motivated, respected, and fighting at the front, they must start building around him, not beside him. Lewis Hamilton didn't raise his voice in Brazil. He didn't storm out of the paddock or slam the team over the radio. Instead, what we saw was far more powerful: a quiet retreat, a stoic silence, a man who has learned how to channel disappointment into reflection. But make no mistake, behind that calm exterior was deep frustration. Hamilton had come to Brazil to fight for Ferrari, to elevate them. And once again, he was let down by the one thing: he cannot control the car underneath him. There's a unique kind of pain that only drivers of Hamilton's caliber experience. It's the pain of knowing you still have the fire, the pace, the racercraft, but not the tools to express it. At 39 years old, he's not chasing statistics anymore. He's chasing legacy. He's come to Ferrari not to extend his career, but to write its final, triumphant chapter. And every race like Brazil chips away at that dream. It's not just about a broken front wing, it's about broken momentum, broken trust. After the race, when asked about the incident with Colapinto and the penalty, Hamilton gave a short answer. Measured, controlled, but those who know him could see through it. The shoulders slumped just a bit more, the eyes tired. This wasn't just physical exhaustion, it was the weight of another opportunity gone. Another weekend where the car didn't match the driver's ability. For a competitor like Lewis, that kind of imbalance is the hardest to endure. And this is where the emotional layer of Formula One gets real. Fans often see the glory, the podiums, the champagne, the celebrations. But for drivers like Hamilton, the battle is mental as much as it is mechanical. Managing motivation in a car that doesn't respond. Carrying the pressure of a global fan base. Fighting for a team that is still learning how to fight for you. These aren't just performance metrics, they're emotional burdens. And in Brazil, it showed.